Have you ever wondered if empty rooms are really just empty? Or why sometimes the darkness, invisible to the naked eye, exists right in front of us? I stood in front of room 404, gripping my suitcase tightly, the flickering hallway lights stretching my shadow across the peeling walls. A yellow note was taped to the fridge, scrawled in red ink. Never lift the cloth covering the mirror after midnight. If you hear 3 knocks, pretend to be asleep. 4 knocks, pray. I laughed it off, ignoring it. And that was my biggest mistake. I invite you, viewers of After Dark 1692, to step in with me, to experience the sounds, the shadows, and the reflections that will make your blood run cold. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next terrifying stories as the darkness silently watches. Tonight, as you sit under dim light, imagine a silent old hallway, the musty smell creeping through every crack in the walls. I'm Min, 24 years old, and here I am standing in front of a room I never thought I would enter. Room 404, where simple rules scribbled on a yellow note conceal things you would never want to encounter in your life. Welcome to Midnight Fear Stories. If you truly want to experience the ultimate sense of dread, turn up the volume, turn off the lights, and prepare yourself for what's about to unfold. And don't forget to subscribe to support us in bringing more stories like this. The hallway I stood in seemed endless. The flickering fluorescent lights cast an uneven, staccato tack-tack sound, like the heartbeat of a creature silently watching me. The walls were peeling, flakes of paint hanging like rotting skin. The air was cold, and I could feel each of my footsteps echo, not just through the hall, but inside my own mind. I dragged my old suitcase. Its wheels clattering on the wooden floor created a haunting sound. Why did I choose this room? I didn't know, but perhaps curiosity always leads me where I shouldn't go. The door of room 404 stood before me, its green paint faded, peeling away like dead skin. I inserted the key. A dry, harsh click rang in my ears, making my heart pound harder. A moment of silence stretched, as if the entire building were holding its breath, waiting for something. Stepping inside, the cold air hit me. The interior was outdated, 1992 style, reminiscent of rooms forgotten by time. In the middle of the room, a large mirror was covered with a white cloth, reflecting the dim hallway light faintly. I exhaled and set down my suitcase. As I walked to the fridge to pour myself a drink, my eyes caught a yellow note taped to its door. The red ink seemed to leap off the page, flickering in the dim light, emphasizing its ominous warning. Rules of room 404. Never lift the cloth covering the mirror after midnight. If you hear 3 knocks, pretend to be asleep. If you hear 4 knocks, pray. I scoffed. Who still believes in childish superstitions? Cheap is good enough. I tossed the note into the trash, telling myself I wouldn't let superstition control me. But my gaze kept returning to the mirror covered with white cloth. It reflected my tired face, my weary eyes, and slumped shoulders after a long day. The cloth seemed to silently remind me that not everything in this room was normal. The ticking clock in the room sounded each second like a warning that time was slipping faster than I imagined. I had no idea that in just a few hours, the simple rules I ignored would become life or death warnings. I walked around the room, checking the furniture. Everything seemed normal, yet a strange feeling crept in, urging me to return to the hallway and leave immediately. But I was already inside, and curiosity pushed me further. I lay down on the bed and closed my eyes. The sounds from the hallway continued to echo, but I drifted into sleep. Then, from somewhere, a knocking sound. Knock, knock, knock. I jolted awake, heart racing. The knocking didn't come from the window, but from the wardrobe across from the bed. I remembered the yellow note. 3 knocks mean pretend to sleep. I closed my eyes, remained perfectly still. My heart pounded in my ears. Bare footsteps approached, stopping right beside the bed. A wet, slurred female voice whispered, "I know you're awake." Silence followed. I dared not move, a chill crawling down my spine. Was this a joke or reality? Everything in room 404 felt blurred, as if testing my courage. Tonight, you will witness the story I just lived through, where an old room, a simple warning note, and a white-covered mirror became instruments of terror. Remember, curiosity is sometimes the shortest path to an obsession you can never escape. I was still awake after the first knock. My heart was pounding as if it might burst, each beat echoing in my head. But I knew that if I moved, I would be taking a risk. I lay motionless, eyes staring at the pitch-black ceiling, straining to catch the smallest sound. The space in the room felt suffocating, as if everything around me were slowly pressing me into an invisible corner. The second knock came. Knock, knock, knock. This time, I clearly sensed the sound coming from the wardrobe, just a few steps from the bed. I held my breath, my throat dry, my hands stiff. I told myself, it's just my imagination, probably a rat or the wind, but my instincts were warning me otherwise. Every sense was on high alert. Even the smallest noise made my skin crawl. I heard a rustling inside the wardrobe. The door didn't move, but it felt like an invisible creature was watching me, waiting for me to make a mistake. I remembered the warning note. If you hear 3 knocks, pretend to be asleep. I closed my eyes, stiffened my body, inhaled deeply, and tried to slow my racing heart. The third knock rang out long, decisive. I squeezed my eyes shut, pulling the blanket over my head as if it could shield me from the unseen. In that feigned sleep, I felt an icy breeze brush against my face, crawling through my fingers and down my back, making me shiver. I felt an invisible hand touch me, but when I opened my eyes, there was nothing but darkness and the faint glow of streetlight through the window. Bare footsteps crept across the wooden floor, drawing closer to my bed. Each step felt like a heartbeat I could sense in my own chest. A wheezing breath sounded right beside me, terrifying me into complete stillness. A voice whispered, hoarse and slurred, "I know you're awake." That voice froze my blood. I no longer believed in coincidence or imagination. This was reality, but a reality I could not explain with logic. I tried to peek through the blanket, but everything was hazy. I saw my reflection in the mirror. The white cloth still covered it, but the reflected image was not entirely me. It stood still, yet its eyes seemed to track my every tiny movement. I swallowed hard, my throat tightening. Each breath was difficult, each second a rising wave of terror. I wanted to scream, but any sound would make me a target. I remembered the yellow note, the second warning. If you hear 4 knocks, pray. The words reminded me that the game had reached a deadly level, and I had lost all control. The night grew darker, shadows spreading, consuming every corner of the room. I sensed invisible things moving around, breathing heavily. Every tiny noise seemed amplified. The ticking clock, the wind whistling through the window crack, the rustle of the mirror, all blended into an endless symphony of horror. I dared to look at the mirror, eyes trembling. The reflection no longer mirrored me alone. It began to distort, facial features twisting into grotesque shapes, hollow black eyes, a mouth stretched into a grin, reaching the ears, a smile that was not mine. I wanted to step back, but my body felt bound, unable to move. The fourth knock came from the front door. My heart almost stopped. I realized that now I was not only facing the darkness in the room, but also the outside world, where room 404 breathed in its own way. The sound surged, relentless, and there was no way to escape. I looked into the mirror, and the most horrifying thing happened. Another version of me, standing behind, holding the white cloth, staring at me with empty eyes. That doppelganger said nothing, barely moved, but its presence alone chilled me to the bone. Every rule I had ignored was now real, alive, and terrifying. All the warnings, the note, the knocks, the dim light, they were leading to an end I could not accept, disappearing without a trace, becoming part of room 404. I felt the white cloth drape over my head. Darkness swallowed everything. every sound seemed gone, leaving only my heartbeat echoing inside the cold room. I knew that from this moment, I was no longer Min of the outside world. I had stepped into another reality, where rules exist not to break, but to survive. The night in room 404 continued, but for me, time seemed to stop. The knocks, the darkness, the reflections, and the invisible presence persisted, a reminder that this room is never truly empty. Anyone who enters could become part of it if they fail to follow the simple rules I once dismissed. I stayed there, eyes shut, blanket pulled tightly over my head, my heart hammering uncontrollably. The room grew darker, not a normal darkness, but something thick and heavy, as if every speck of dust and every thread of air had turned into a force pulling me toward an unseen realm. The fourth knock came from the front door, steady, urgent, like a wordless message. The moment of life and death had arrived. I opened my eyes, and that was when I saw myself in the mirror. Not my reflection, but another version of me. Its eyes were pitch black and hollow. Its mouth stretched into a smile that split all the way to the ears as it stared straight at me. A white cloth draped over its hand, lifted as if ready to lower onto me. I froze, my body refusing to obey, my heartbeat spiraling out of control. The rules from the yellow paper flashed in my mind. If you hear 3 knocks, pretend to sleep. If you hear 4 knocks, pray. I was praying not with words, but with my heart, with raw survival instinct. That other self crept closer, its bare footsteps echoing on the cold wooden floor. I felt its breath icy, seeping through my skin, sending shivers down my spine. I wanted to scream, but screaming would only make everything worse. I knew that the slightest wrong movement could cost me everything. The space around me tightened, the mirror distorted, and stretched like a doorway to a place that didn't belong to this world. The white cloth came down, covering my head. Everything turned pitch black. I couldn't see anything, only feel the invisible hands gripping me, pressure weighing down on my body as if something was trying to drag me into the horrifying image I had just seen. I tensed up, my heart feeling like it might explode. The damp, icy smell and something sticky against my skin reminded me that I was no longer in control of my own body. As the cloth touched my shoulders, the image from the mirror flashed again in my mind. The other self smiling, those hollow black eyes staring deep into me. I realized then that I wasn't the only one in danger. Every version of myself inside this room existed simultaneously, waiting for the chance to replace one another. A loud bang erupted from the window. Then, from every corner of the room, I felt the vibrations through the floorboards, through the walls, through the ceiling. The sound engulfed me, swallowing me whole. I wanted to scream, but I knew the end would come faster if I did. I had become part of the room, part of the supernatural space I had never understood. The fifth knock came not from the door, not from the wardrobe, but from the mirror itself. Every reflection twisted and spun, flickering violently. I felt the other self no longer behind me. It was inside me, seeping into my consciousness, flooding me with unimaginable fear. I heard my own breathing, but it wasn't mine anymore. It was the breath of something else taking over. I tried to move, but my body was locked in place. The cloth wrapped tighter around my head and shoulders. The world around me warped. The room no longer looked like room 404, but a surreal landscape where all rules collapsed and every shadow became a living creature. I felt each heartbeat of mine merge with the heartbeat of that other self. I could no longer tell where I ended and it began. Footsteps, knocks, ticking, breathing, they blended together, forming a nightmarish symphony that drowned me completely. Then, in a split second, I realized the most terrifying truth. I was no longer the one controlling the story. The other self had stood up in my place, pulling the white cloth fully over me, and in an instant, everything went completely dark. My scream was smothered, fading into nothingness, replaced by suffocating silence. The next morning, the room was empty. The yellow paper hung neatly on the refrigerator as if nothing had happened. A new guest entered, dragging a suitcase, eyes full of curiosity. The room breathed, preparing for its next victim. I, whatever remains of me, am now part of the room, part of its silence and endless darkness. The story ends here, but the horror lingers. Do you dare step into room 404? Do you dare test the rules I once ignored? Everyone who enters might become part of the darkness, and no one knows when they'll disappear. When the morning light streamed through the window cracks, room 404 looked disturbingly normal. The old furniture remained, and the yellow paper hung neatly on the refrigerator as if nothing had happened the night before. But I knew it was only appearances. The darkness, the strange sounds, and the other version of myself still lingered somewhere in the room, silent, waiting, ready for the next person to enter. From this horrifying experience, I learned a lesson that everyone should remember. Curiosity and disregarding even the smallest rules can lead to consequences beyond imagination. The rules in room 404 were not meant to toy with you or test your courage. They were a barrier between our world and the supernatural entities that exist alongside it. When you break that barrier, you not only face fear, but also risk losing yourself. Looking back, I realized that survival doesn't rely solely on strength or reason. It also depends on respecting the things we don't understand. I, Min, have become a part of the room, and that realization haunts me for life. Room 404 still exists, quiet but dangerous. Anyone who enters must learn to live with the darkness and its unspoken rules. This story is not just a terrifying experience. It is also a reminder that, in life, sometimes following even the simplest rules can save your life. Respect the warnings and trust your own instincts. So, if one day you find yourself standing in front of room 404, would you dare to enter? Would you follow the rules or challenge them? Share your thoughts in the comments so everyone can discuss. And don't forget to subscribe to Midnight Fear Stories to never miss the next chilling and haunting tale, where the darkness is always watching you, even when you think you're safe.